Wildlife Corner. Wildlife Corner. What the animal is for? Did she get it?
No, she said dog.
Oh, she said dog. Okay, well. So here's the question. Is this more like a dog or more like a cat? You may think it's obvious. To me, it always looked more doggy. But guess what? It's actually something that they call felinoform. Hyenas are felinoform. They're actually more closely related to cats than to dogs. And the animals that they're most closely related to are actually mongooses and civets. So they're somewhere in between, right? And the other thing that makes them actually in between is that the way they hunt is more dog-like than cat-like, because they don't, when they're running after an animal, they actually bite at it to bring it down instead of clawing at it like cats do. So that's kind of an interesting thing. So our animal of the day is the hyena. Okay, so I'm going to teach you some interesting things about hyenas, okay? The Swahili word is fisi. Fisi. And the Maasai word for hyena is olngojine. 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 Okay, and I don't know if anybody saw my question on Facebook. What is this animal that we love to hate or hate to love? It's kind of funny looking, not super handsome, not like a lion or a leopard or something like that, but it's a very prolific and proficient predator. It has a reputation for being a little bit dirty and somehow greedy. But you know what? They are the ecosystem sweeper. They eat everything. So they call it a bone crusher. It has very strong jaw muscles that allow it to crush bones. And of the 4 species of hyenas that there are, in Kenya, we have this one. This is the spotted hyena. Doesn't have a lot of spots in this particular picture, doesn't have a lot of spots, but I'm going to show you one that show you a photo that has all 4 of them. And here's the spotted hyena. You can see that it is actually very spotted. Some of them have more spots than others. We've got the brown hyena. We've got the striped hyena. And the aardwolf, which is, you can see, is quite a bit smaller. But the one, as I said, that's very common in Kenya and also across Africa is the spotted hyena. Now, the spotted hyena has some very interesting characteristics. As I said, somewhere between a dog and a cat, but more closer to a cat in its whole physicality. The other thing is that it's very hard to tell the difference between a male and a female. It's somewhere in between. So I want you, somebody out there I'm sure somebody's going to be interested in doing some research about that. And in fact, there's even some experts who have said, I thought it was a male, but then it gave birth. Hey, guess that was a female, right? So they have some very interesting qualities. They're kind of in between. So, so go ahead and research that. The other thing is that, as I said, they're sweepers, so they are very good at cleaning up. They'll eat pretty much everything. They'll eat the flesh, they'll eat the bones. If you look at the hyena scat, it's actually whitish. That's because they're crushing bones. So that's why the waist is that color. The other thing is that I was asking LaRasha, what do you guys say about, what do Maasai people say about hyenas? And he was saying that, okay, there's several things. One, when there's no hyenas around, the environment is much dirtier because there's nobody to eat up the carcasses. So people really like the fact that they do a lot of cleaning up. Related to that is they also eat things that seem to be putrid or rotten. So researchers have also been asking themselves, what is it about a hyena's immune system that allows them to eat this rotten flesh? And they haven't figured that out yet, but they're still researching that. And that's very interesting because, other animals smell it. They know it's going to make them sick. Just like you and I, if we smell something, that's gone off, your body's like, no, because you're going to get sick from eating it. But hyenas, they can eat it. So it's kind of amazing. The other thing that LaRasha was saying about hyenas is that they're very useful because they make a sound that is helpful to people. Okay, so they've got a lot of regular sounds. And here's LaRasha making a hyena sound. Okay, now make the sound where they're following the lion.
When they're following the lion, you can hear them say,
okay, so the second sound, like kind of like little yelping noises. It's the sound that hyenas make when they're following lions. Okay, so now you might ask yourself, now why is that interesting or helpful? Well, if you're in a village and you hear the hyena making that sound, you know that lions are close by, right? It's important to get as much information about your environment as possible when you're living in the bush and when dangerous predators like lions are close by. So it clues people in about lions being close by. I have my own hyena story. When I was first working in Kenya, often would stay in a tent. And there was one night when there was a lot going on. I was under a lot of stress because of, anyway, I don't really want to go into that, but I was in my tent alone at night, and I heard outside that sound that LaRasha was making. Ooh, ooh. And then I heard, coming close to my tent, the footsteps of a hyena very close to my tent, and that sound right outside the zip of my tent. So, of course, that was the end of sleep for me for the night. I was trying to call my friends to say, okay, how afraid should I be? But, of course, in Amboseli at the time, there was no phone network. So, luckily, when I called in the morning, I got my friend and I asked him, how afraid should I have been? Would a hyena ever come into my tent and to eat me or something like that? He said, no. Actually, they're famous for being cowards. So that's the other thing about hyenas. They're kind of cowardly when it comes to interacting with people. And if they don't know what's inside, if they can't see what's inside, they will not try to get inside. So it's actually, you're pretty safe if you're in the tent and they can't see, they don't know what's in there. So that kind of, calmed me down for future evenings in tents. And now I can sleep through the night when I'm in a tent. No problem. The other thing is that hyenas actually are, they definitely need a publicist to improve their image. They're known as being greedy. They're also known as being not very bright. One of the reasons why they're known as being greedy is that they'll often kill more than what they're planning to eat. So they'll come into a village and they'll kill 20 or 30 goats at a time, and they'll only eat 4. And you can see why that would make the owner of those goats very unhappy and call the hyena greedy. You've killed all my goats and you didn't even eat them. You didn't even want to eat them. You weren't even hungry. So you didn't even have enough esumash to eat all the goats you killed. So the other thing is that LaRasha was saying that you can easily trap a hyena. You can lure them. They're not that smart to be able to avoid being trapped compared to, let's say, a lion. So I thought that was kind of interesting. They're also matrilineal. So they're not male-dominated. They're female-dominated. They're led by an alpha female. And in the clan, any offspring that she has will be right behind her in hierarchy. So that means that even the next dominant female will follow her young. So if you're the offspring of the alpha female, you get the best food, you get the best place to sleep, so your chances of survival are very good. So that was also very interesting to me because there's not that many animals that are female dominated. And actually the female is more aggressive and actually larger in the hyena community. So That's something about hyenas today. I don't know if anybody has any additional information. I'd love to hear from you. I know Joanne is always out there, and Kathleen. You guys love wild animals, and often you come up with things that I didn't know or I didn't find in my research. So let's hear from you. Love to hear more. So that wraps up my wildlife corner today. I hope that was kind of enlightening. I definitely always learn a lot from doing my research so that I have something interesting to share with you. So, well, that wraps up our program for today.